Welcome to the Kim Honeycutt podcast, Flip Your Lid. Kim Honeycutt is a psychotherapist. She's also the author of the book, But Your Mother Loves You. Kim also is the executive director of ICU Talks, which is a mental health speaking ministry. And she's a member of Mosaic Church and a lover of Jesus. And this podcast is designed so that you can learn how to flip your lid and then reconnect to who you really are. So today, you're going to get to hang out with Thomas Floyd. So Thomas is a psychotherapist, and honestly, y'all, he's a really good friend of mine. He, through Marco Polo, has helped me get through this pandemic so far. We have definitely sent some funny videos to each other, but there's a real serious side of him as well. He's extremely intelligent, speaks really well about his understanding of interpersonal biology and the Enneagram, and attachment styles, and 1,000 other things. He's just fun. And I think you're going to enjoy learning from him, hearing him talk about how he sees the Bible, but also just knowing that there's just a depth to him. And I hope it adds to the depth that you already have inside of you. So, hey, everybody, this is Kim Honeycutt. You're at the Kim Honeycutt podcast called Flip Your Lid. And so the laughter you hear gently in the background is one of my really good friends. He's my best male friend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
His name is Thomas Floyd. Can we have a little round of applause? Yay, Thomas. So
I would say I hate the validation, but I don't. So thank you for that.
Right. So, Thomas, you and I go way back. It's been at least like 3 months. I don't even know. 3 years,
at
3
least
months.
3 months.
Yeah. It's been a little while.
I feel like the last 3 months have been like we've done enough to last
The last 3 years.
a lifetime.
Yeah.
That sounds really sad. I'm already starting to be sappy, and we just started this.
Right. Well, he's a 4. If anybody knows about the Enneagram, he's a 4.
4 on the Enneagram.
That tells you. I think you're
1-to-1 subtype.
You're a
4 on the
1-to-1.
Enneagram.
Yes.
So
you are. So, but you're amazing. So let's just tell everybody. Here's the deal. Okay. So Thomas came into my life because of his work with the Enneagram, and I love the Enneagram being an amazing spiritual tool for people.
yeah.
And he teaches it really, really well. And he has studied under Suzanne Stabile and then done a lot of his own finding ways and podcasts and books to learn even more. He's in private practice.
I am.
Yeah, which we're so grateful for. And so if you're looking for a psychotherapist, do not contact me. Please contact Thomas Floyd. He's amazing. But you're not just an Enneagram person. That's part of why I wanted you here today, be part of the kickoff of my new podcast, because you're one of my people.
It's very
but
exciting.
also, when it comes to trauma, when it comes to interpersonal biology, when it comes to narcissism, when it comes to narcissism in the church, there's so much you are very well versed in.
Thanks.
Yeah, and so I want people to know that about you. We've done a lot of attachment Facebook Live talks. We've done a lot of things together, a lot of Enneagram stuff. But we haven't talked about that we've flirted with each other about talking about is narcissism in the church.
Yes. Yeah, that's a really important topic, I think, in our present day and age. And so yeah, I'm really excited to talk about it. We've talked about it, off. What is this? Not off camera, off podcast.
Well, on Marco Polo.
On Marco
Polo. Which is like the main form of communication in my life now.
And so yeah, I think it's a really important conversation to have with what's going on in our world, what's going on in church culture, the American church culture. So I think there's a lot to this conversation. So I'm excited to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, and I think you're the right person to do this with us, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule, because I know if you're sitting with me, you're not making money. So
I get done at 2 today. So
I'm trying to get people to feel sorry for you or something. And you're a 4. Don't you eat that up?
I mean, when you're trying this hard.
Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go back to being myself, everybody. I'm gonna stop being nice. It doesn't look good on me, does it?
It looks good on you.
Whatever. So jump in there. Help us understand.
Sure.
What narcissism is in the clinical world.
Mm-hmm.
And then how you would like to define that about narcissism in the church, and let's just see where this goes.
Sure. So I think, one of the important things to remember is that the word narcissism is getting thrown out like a lot these days, and part of that is because I think what's happening culturally is that we're seeing we're more comfortable with calling out injustices. We're more comfortable with not just saying yes to authority for the sake of saying yes. We're becoming more aware. So I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I think defining narcissism, what I'd like to do is talk about it in two ways. One, the Bible, quote unquote, of psychology, the DSM-5 talks about it in a personality way, in a
like a disorder.
Yeah, like a personality disorder way. And I would say that not a whole lot of people fit that bill. But narcissism for me is not just that, but it's also on a spectrum.
Yes.
All of us actually have, this might shock people, but it's actually kind of healthy to have a hint of narcissism.
That's
because
right.
if you don't have a hint of narcissism, then you're going to get used and abused.
A lot of people can't get out of bed without a little bit of grandiosity of what they can do throughout their
Right.
day.
Right. And so what I've seen over time in church culture, especially in North American church culture, is people not being aware of their stuff. And then narcissism on that spectrum actually shows up. And so for people that are wondering what's the difference between a personality disorder and a spectrum, I'll start giving resources already, but Chuck DeGroat talks about this, and he says if there's curiosity involved, so for example, if someone is wondering, hey, I can see how that affected you, how can I be better? Some level of curiosity probably is not in a disorder and is more on the spectrum way. So I think that's really important. But narcissism shows up in just all kinds of different ways. But also not just narcissism, but I think emotional awareness and emotional wellness in the church. We should be leading the charge in that, and we're not.
Preach it, Thomas.
And Pete Zero's work talks about how you cannot separate spiritual maturity and emotional health. Right. And oftentimes those aren't always going together for people. And so I think a conversation about what that actually looks like is really, really important.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And because the spectrum of people understanding about narcissism, like there's a such thing as depressive narcissism. There's codependent narcissism, right? And the difference with codependent narcissism versus malignant narcissism is that you will really encourage a codependent narcissist to keep doing what they're doing because people benefit from it.
Correct.
But it means that they are stuck in a trauma response and they are not doing well.
Correct.
Right. And so we'll stay away from malignant narcissists or really, really try to please them. But people will see that and not feel safe.
Yeah.
But with depression narcissism, a lot of times we will overlook it, call it something else.
Yes.
Codependent narcissism, we will encourage it because it means you get all the food taken care of for the church event.
Correct.
Right.
And and this is why integrating the Enneagram into this conversation is important, because as we start learning about narcissism, we might just think that, 3s and 8s.
Well, I think we can throw some 7s in there. 3, 7, and 8s. But,
who are aggressive stance numbers and who can be maybe a little grandiose.
A little bullying.
Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm about to punch you just because.
Oh, you don't have feelings, so this is fine, right?
Yeah, I don't have a lot, so go ahead.
So because of that, I think because of that, it's not just 3, 7s, and 8s. It can show up in all kinds of people. I mean, Chuck DeGroat talks about, he didn't even think 9s could be narcissists,
right.
And they can totally be narcissists.
Right.
It just shows up, like you said, it shows up in a trauma response. It shows up in how they get their needs met.
Right.
Even 2s can be narcissists. 4s can be narcissists.
Right. Well, 2s and 9s can really be the people who you're going to see some codependent narcissism.
Correct.
In. Particularly in the 2s, and the 9s, I think, and tell me what you think of this, Thomas, since you're the expert. 9s, I think you're going to see the bitterness and the resentment later on in the relationship.
Yeah.
In that there is nothing like a 9 being mad at you because it is passive aggressive. It leaks out or it comes explosively. Opposed to me as an 8, I'll just punch you in the throat, and then I'm done. Like we can make up.
Well, nines store. I mean, the
Yes.
nines store all that stuff in fights. So they may not say anything, and then a fight blows up, and apparently they've been keeping track of every single thing that you've been doing wrong.
Absolutely.
And it comes out that way.
It all comes out. Yes.
And honestly, if we're honest, I mean, fours, I mean, there's a level of self-involvement there that if we're not careful and if we're not engaging in our own work, can become incredibly self-involved. And so that's why the 4 moved to 2, and stress is so important, because it helps us how to actually give to others, and how to want to do things for people and not just for ourselves.
Right.
So
because suffering can be addictive. That can be part of the depression, narcissism for 4s.
Yeah. That hits a little too close to home. Is this a therapy session here?
No, because you didn't pay me.
No. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and even for, for 5s, it looks like becoming a little, restrictive and stubborn and all that stuff, and withholding information. And, I think one of the really interesting things that I heard Suzanne say, if Sarah ever listens to this, she'll give me a look. But Sarah's my wife, by the way. And
she's a 6.
She is. Yeah. She was once asked, "What number do you think is the most controlling number?" And I thought the answer would be each number just shows it in different ways. But Suzanne thinks that 6s, when they're not doing their work, can be more controlling than any other number, because they have to plan the way that it happens. And if they can't be involved in that planning process, then they won't do it, and they'll stonewall you. They'll become really stubborn about it. And Sarah was like, "Yeah, that hurts, but it's true," And so I think 6s, narcissism for them really looks like not trusting that other people can do it better than they can, because they think that their planning and their desire to do it the right way is the best way. Right. And so as we use the Enneagram, and by the way, the book that I'm using, one of the main resources for this would be When Narcissism Comes to Church by Chuck DeGroat. And I'm still getting used to hearing my voice through this. It's really interesting. And so because of that, I think each number, it can look very, very different. And within church culture, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed about our American Christian context is that everything becomes so individualized. Everything becomes, and so we don't actually know how to do community together well a lot of times. Right. Like some churches do. I'm not saying that every church is like this, but because of that, we can't, sometimes church is messy. Like sometimes we have to get dirty, and we're going to have disagreements, and we're going to have conflicts, and things are not going to go well. And we have to be able to, I think, navigate those in healthy ways. And if we're not aware of our own narcissism in that role, we'll get in trouble. And so, yeah. That
is such a good point, because I can just see, like in a church, that if the church was started by a 3, 7, or an 8, right? Somebody in the aggressive stance.
Yes.
And then those, particularly those who have a really hard time with confrontation, and they're more of avoidant in that if there's a problem, if their needs aren't being met, they're just going to leave.
Yes.
Opposed to, and then again, the 3, 7, 8s then multiply, then there's more, and then that becomes the norm.
Correct.
And it's all about aggressive stance and not showing weaknesses.
Correct. And that's why Suzanne talks about, in any organization, and not only church culture, but nonprofit, she believes that it's important to have balanced staffing with different stances. You know what? Because a lot of times with in churches, you're right, it is 3, 7s, and 8s. Yeah. And then, but I think that's the beauty of 1s, 2s, and 6s too, that they ask us to actually slow down and care for people and think about the common good. Well, that doesn't always go well with 3, 7s, and 8s, because they want to accomplish and they want to do, and they just want to be the best. Hello, Hemkunnicut. So, and so because of that, I think it's really, really important to, I mean, it's important to understand our strengths and our weaknesses in the process.
Right.
And in regards to, I think in regards to church culture too, we have to understand that we cannot do life without people.
Right.
It is, and that's why That's why Paul, that's why Jesus, that's why everything in the New Testament talks about this idea of doing life together, of doing community together.
Right.
But each nation has limitations, and I think our limitation here is that we cannot get out of our own individualized lens as we see things.
Yeah.
And so part of what we need to wrestle with in this day and age is understanding the ways in which, we can do life together in better ways. And all of that, like you said, has to do with getting our needs met.
Yeah.
I think the main problem that I've seen in church leadership structures is that leaders don't know. When leaders don't understand that they have needs, that's a problem.
Right.
When leaders say, this is the way it is because this is what the Bible says, or this is, and I'm all for like good sound doctrine. I'm not saying that that's not a thing, but when you don't understand that you're trying to get your needs met and you don't realize that, all kinds of hurt and pain can really occur.
Yeah, absolutely. And for y'all just know, we're also talking about this in a very unhealthy way. All numbers can look a certain way in health, and
yes.
And so your number is not your reason to not get better.
Correct.
It's not a I'm a 9, and so this is just how we are. That is not what we're saying whatsoever. Right. We're talking about, but we are focusing on the unhealthy part. If you're in a church, it is about your emotional needs.
Yes.
One of the main things the enemy will use and have you have shame about your emotional needs, because in those needs, there's vulnerability and trust and therefore connection.
Yeah.
And connected, we advance the kingdom.
Yeah.
Right.
And Rizzo and Hudson have done really good work with levels of development and health. And so all of us can actually grow to be pretty healthy people. It takes, I heard Suzanne say once, she's always asked, is there a combination that's not compatible?
Right.
And she says, any number that is working on themselves, it's going to work out. Now, she did say, she followed up with saying that, but I have seen 4 get married together, and that's a hot mess. So
that's adorable.
But I think all of us can actually grow in trying to be healthy. I have a question for you, even though you're not being interviewed.
Oh, come on, bro. I don't like talking about myself.
What are the things that you've noticed in regards to getting needs met that you've seen in just with people in your practice, but also when we talk about the greater body of Christ?
Right. Well, and also being an executive director of a ministry and just what's that's like to watch people. So I'll tell you one thing. I am really good about my emotional needs, not because I'm an 8. People tell me, well, that's easy for you because you're an 8. That is actually invalidating towards my 25 years of sobriety, that every day I have worked to learn how to be vulnerable and not be controlled by my trauma and by the voices in my head.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I'm able to confront and to be clear about my needs because I've done the work. And so I see people who are not encouraged to do the work. And their idea is that if I do something for me, it's against Christ. One of the biggest things I hear is, and to me, it's misunderstanding
absolutely
of the scripture. I also think it's compounded by the fact that you most likely went into the fawning trauma response as a child, went into a preoccupied attachment. That became your way of life. And I'm asking you, just like when I was asked to stop drinking, I'm asking you to walk away from the very thing that's keeping you from feeling some pain underneath.
Correct.
In your way of thinking, you're connected, but we know that you're not connected if you're in a trauma response. If you are not getting your needs met and you're hyper-focused on someone else's needs,
yes,
then you are not truly connected.
Yes. And this is talking about interpersonal neurobiology. This is where the work of curiosity really comes into play, because for just a basic understanding, right? Dan Siegel and the model of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, or the cortex region, is what he calls the wise part of the brain, which means it has a lot to do with executive functioning. How do we hold opposing views together? Good Lord, could we use that in our day and age, right?
Preach
it. How can we not engage in either or thinking, but both and thinking?
Right.
How are we able to have connection with people while also disagreeing? All the stuff, right, that Facebook is showing us we can't do well. Anyways, that's another rant. All of that stuff, when trauma hits or when mental health stuff hits, what we know because of brain scan research is that part of the brain is actually deactivated.
Right.
Because the brain is essentially saying, it's sending energy to the brainstem and to the limbic area and is saying, this doesn't feel safe.
Right.
Alert, 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 alert.
Right.
So all of the higher capacity brain involvement that we can participate in literally gets turned off.
Right.
So what I do with people is I say, you've got to turn that prefrontal cortex area. And they're like, well, how do I do it? I think you do it, and I think the research backs this up. It's self-observation without judgment.
That's right.
It's actually not necessarily finding a solution right away, 3 7s and 8s. It's not necessarily, I mean, it could be like that,
Right.
but for me personally, I need to be able to, and maybe it's because I'm in the withdrawing stance and it takes me a little longer, but I need to be able to observe the pattern before I try to find a solution to the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And lots of people can engage in self-observation.
Mm-hmm.
The hard piece is doing self-observation without judgment.
That's right.
Because we want to criticize, we want to name, we want to say things that aren't good about ourselves. But if we can self-observe, we can be curious about, oh, this is why as a 4, I want to be validated, or as a 2, I want to be liked, or as a 5, I want to retreat, or as an 8, I just want to boss everybody around. Or as
What's wrong with that,
these are
Thomas?
caricatures, by the way. Or as a 9, I just want peace within myself. Because like I said last time I was here, you are not your personality. Your personality is the stuff that you've actually added on
Right.
to your core self or your true self, your diamond, right? And so I think it's really important to recognize that curiosity is really important.
Yeah.
And it takes work, but it's also, if we just set time aside to just be curious about our lives, it can really help. The last thing I would add with that piece of the conversation is that I'm talking culturally, the reason I think curiosity is hard, I'm not gendering everything, but especially for males, is because we live in a quote unquote 3 culture that's all about how do we get to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are wired for solutions in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Even people that aren't 3 7s and 8s, I think there's this pressure of, okay, well, how do we fix this? How do we do this now? And curiosity sometimes doesn't necessarily involve solutions right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many golden nuggets in that. So one, thank you for bringing Dr. Dan Siegel into this. It is part of how I decided to name this Flip Your Lid.
Yeah, he talks about that, right?
Yeah, I love his simple understanding of the brain in that once our lid is flipped, all trauma responses, your limbic system, your amygdala, everything's exposed, and your cortex has to come back down in order to be able to use it. And so I tell people to do self-observation with grace, which is the same thing as saying, because when there's judgment, I have no faith. Right. So if I can look at myself with grace of what's happening, that it takes exactly what you're saying to watch that, because without looking at it with grace, I'm actually still using one of the strategies that got me through childhood.
Yes.
Which is criticism. It's low self-esteem.
Yes.
It's depression, narcissism. It's part of what you explained is when people put themselves down all the time.
Correct.
That is depression, narcissism, so that they don't have to actually go to the next level and see what's really going on with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, from a biblical or Christian perspective, all of this goes back to what John is talking about in John 13 through 17. Because if we forget the fact that we have been united with Christ, and that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are in this thing called a relationship, and they are welcoming us into their relationship, then there is nothing that we can do to be separated from that. Now, there's things that we can do to alienate ourselves from that. We can engage in, but from God's perspective, there's no pulling away on his end.
Right.
And so for me, I think and I get in trouble sometimes when I say this, but
You get in trouble anyway.
The myth of separation, we just need to debunk that, because it is incredibly, I mean, I see, and I'm sure you do too, people that have essentially spiritual PTSD because they're afraid that if they mess up, God's going to turn away from them and they're not going to be enough. And
Yeah.
what does that create? That creates more personality, more dysfunctional behavior, a higher level of narcissism on the spectrum, because they're not feeling like they're enough.
Yeah.
They're not feeling like they're good
Yeah,
enough.
that's so good.
But a lot of it and I've had this conversation with you. I feel like people in the church, whatever, I don't care if I get in trouble. I think people in the church can actually be more messed up, quote unquote, messed up than people that come from outside the church. And then people that come from outside the church and they have converted and they're Christians and they're saved, they come in and they're like, yeah, I don't get all of that, right? Like what is that about? And it's because sometimes there are just messages that we've received in unhealthy church culture that say, essentially, you need to apologize for who you are. You need to be sorry. You need to be ashamed. You need to think about your sinfulness 24/7. All these things.
Right.
I'm exaggerating a little bit, but in reality, there's truth to those things.
Yeah.
And so for me, John 15, where he says, the Father and I are one, the Father and I are together, there's union, and we get to be invited into that union. Union means like there's nothing that can separate us from that love.
Right.
That doesn't mean that there's not, and this is the second piece, right? That doesn't mean that there's not hard moments, because if you continue to read in John 15, it says that he's pruning us and he's burning things away, right? That aren't actually leading to our wholeness, that aren't actually leading to our healthy spirituality. So it doesn't, we're not drinking margaritas in Hawaii 24/7, as nice as that would be, but there are hard moments that sometimes happen, but we can go through hard moments with Jesus and not be separated from Jesus.
That's right.
There's a distinction there.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. And just the fact that we have to give like 20 disclaimers to speak our own personal truth, right? Everything that you've researched and that you've tried to figure out in your personal relationship with Jesus.
Right.
Like there's this sense of that you have to be really clear of like whose toes do I step on, but that is just your truth and understanding. And particularly going into that, the idea is that, part of your parasympathetic nervous system is ventral vagal. And when you're there, that is connection. There's safety and connection. It's called social engagement. That is where we get to feel the closeness to him.
You're so smart.
It's amazing,
wow.
isn't it?
Literal genius.
You don't even know. Anyway, Brother Thomas. So when you step out of ventral vagal, when you step out of that place of closeness that you can feel the Lord, you're going into a trauma response. He's still there with you.
Yes.
But you will simply be in a state of panic or shut down. You won't experience him, but we're never separate from him. Like, I would not be a Christ follower. He had to go to the depth of hell to get me.
Ooh, that'll preach.
Right. So if the whole idea is that we have to get up and go find him and go to him.
Correct.
Like, he came to us, and then he literally in my life came and found me where I was, and it was not a good place.
Yes. Baxter Kruger puts it this way: that has to do more with blindness, that we can't actually see God present within us. But through the work of the Holy Spirit, he kind of gets to take the veil off.
Right.
And we get to see that even in those moments of pain and hardship, he was there all along. That with polyvagal, that's really, really interesting to me, because what we're learning is this is, I don't know if your listeners are familiar with this, but window of tolerance.
Right.
And how if we're outside of our window of tolerance, and for people that have experienced trauma, their window of tolerance is very minimal, right? Very, very minimal. But that sweet spot of the window of tolerance is incredibly important. It's where growth happens. It's where safety happens. And like you said, we will not grow unless we feel safe.
That's right.
Now, that doesn't mean that risk isn't a part of the human experience. Bruce Perry, who I really, really
he's
like.
Great. I like him too.
He talks about the difference between unpredictable risk and change and stress and change that is predictable. Because if you have a child or a person that every day there is unpredictable stress, you're not going to get this meal, you're not going to get this meal, you're going to get late, there's going to be yelling, like just bombarded, that is going to do something to your nervous system.
Right.
It's going to mess you up.
Yes.
But if you can be in school environments or familiar environments where it's like, we're going to work on a task that's actually going to lead us to actually think about things in different ways. That leads to resilience.
That's
so
right.
one leads to trauma and the other one leads to resilience.
That's right.
So I think it's important when we're talking about safety, we're not saying we need to live a really comfortable life.
Right.
But when stress is so overwhelming that you're just in a state of fight or flight 24/7, that's going to lead to huge problems. And I think especially in the evangelical world in North America, and by the way, some people are like, do you hate evangelicals? No, those people are they're my tribe.
They're your people.
They're my people.
Yeah,
that's
right.
why I'm speaking to that. But what was I saying?
That you love me and you think I'm great.
That's not helping.
That was
Kim.
not it.
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
What happens when
not on the narcissism spectrum, right?
What happens when two ADHD people get together?
What was I saying? Dang it.
You know what Bruce Perry and unpredictability and then their path.
Oh,
of
so
trauma
in the spiritual. So when we're talking about Christian spirituality, I think that many people are sometimes bombarded with images about their own shame and about their own inadequacy.
Right.
That is exactly what Bruce Perry's talking about in regards to unpredictable change, because you can never actually sit for a second, breathe, and say, "Oh, God loves me even if I messed up today."
Yeah.
And in the work that I do, one of my specialties is helping people navigate spiritual trauma. You know, and that doesn't necessarily come from. That can come from a variety of reasons, but we need to be able to actually breathe and know that we're enough.
Yeah, just the idea of that. I love the term spiritual PTSD, or for some people, it's church PTSD, of just knowing the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Because what's heartbreaking for me is the idea of someone walking away from Jesus because of misrepresentation in the church. And I know it happens. I've met people, and I'm like, I can't believe you still believe based on what happened to you in what was, you walked in thinking it was his house.
Right.
And in his name, people did things to you, and you still pursue him.
Yes.
But it means they did the work on the spiritual PTSD.
Right.
Right. And how crucial that is. And for those of you listening, if you want to look up window of tolerance, I would look it up through the eyes of Dan Siegel. I look it up through Dan Siegel because people have taken that term and made it a little bit different of what he meant.
Absolutely.
And so you can read about that and just get a better understanding of your own personal window of tolerance.
Yes. Yeah, Dan Siegel. And Dan Siegel also talks about the wheel of awareness. And that's a really good tool for me too, because if we want to raise curiosity and we want to engage in the frontal cortex area, that's also going to, help with that stuff too. So yeah, I think in this conversation, it's just really important to know how safety and security, those are non-negotiables. Like they're really, really, really important. And
it means you can have a voice. It means that you can have a disagreement without having stabbing, so to speak, right? It means that there's still a connection, even though there can be something that the pastor says or somebody in your committee says that you disagree with. You can still stay connected.
Absolutely. And I just find that more and more of us in this cultural age are struggling with that. There's a struggle. And I think it's because we have created ideological, what do I want to say? Because of our ideologies actually give us safety. So what we actually believe gives us safety. So when that is challenged, like, for example, what's happening in our world in the conversation regarding race, we have sets of people. I'm not even talking about quote unquote one side or the other. I'm just saying all around, we have sets of people that cannot take that information in because that means that their narrative about what America is or what the police force is or whatever is completely upended. Right. And so because of that actually leads, let's call it as it is, that leads to anxiety. Yes. So
and that's the separation of self.
Yeah. And for them, for whoever it is, for me, who I'm part, whatever, that actually leads to a sense of not feeling safe because ideology has become identity. Right. And when ideology becomes identity, when an opposing view comes to the forefront, that's incredibly hard, incredibly difficult. So I think this conversation has huge ramifications for our day and age, like right here, right now, because it can be, I mean, what I've been trying to tell people with this is, as passionate as you are on whatever you believe, if your passion is more important than your connection to that person, nothing good is going to happen.
Say that again, Thomas.
If your passion is more important than your connection with that person, nothing is going to happen.
Yeah.
Or something will happen and it won't be good.
Right.
Right? So we have to be able to have, and I'm all for standing up for people that are vulnerable injustices, but it can't come at the sake of ridicule and disconnection. And there can be disagreement. Disagreement is healthy. It's part of the human experience. But we have to understand how important connection is. I've never found someone that says, this person yelled at me because they thought differently. And you know what? I really wanted to change my mind about it. No, that's not a thing.
That's not a thing. Well, and going back to the narcissism, just so y'all can hear this, that we're talking about trying to have connection with semi to healthy people that are seeking connection. If you have a narcissist in your life, and I particularly mean a malignant narcissist who is or a cluster of a personality disorder, like, you aren't safe. You're not going to change them. It benefits them to be narcissists. They don't have issue with how they treat you. We want you to have issue with how that narcissist person is treating you.
Yes.
So please hear that. When he's saying we're not seeking disconnection. If you're in an abusive, toxic relationship, you need to seek disconnection.
Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. And honestly, I mean, it's talked about so much, but this is where boundaries come into this. So if for the practical people that are listening, you have to be able to set up boundaries with people that are on that high end of the narcissism spectrum. Because if you don't set up boundaries, they will make you go crazy, and you will end up in Kim's and I office at some point. That's exactly
right. And part of what happens is the narcissist will find a codependent. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a codependent narcissist, but they will find someone who's in a fawning trauma response, or you can look as a preoccupied attachment. And what happens is that person with preoccupied attachment or codependency will not have boundaries because they think the boundary will hurt the other person. I do need to know that is a narcissistic type thought.
Yes.
If you say you're worried about hurting someone's feelings, I'm gonna challenge you that's really about you, and not that you're thinking the other person is that weak they can't handle it. 9 times out of 10, you're saying that because you are scared of and in fear of being rejected if you stand up for yourself.
I've never met a narcissist that hasn't ended up with a codependent person. Have you ever met one?
No, I have not.
It always happens,
they
right?
They find them.
Yeah.
And then once they get left, they go stand in an Al-Anon meeting parking lot and they find them a new one.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it's just really amazingly sad.
And I would say that happens sometimes in church cultures where you have a narcissistic leader, and narcissistic leaders love people, codependent people, because they're not going to stand up for themselves.
And that's where spiritual abuse and spiritual PTSD comes in.
Correct.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
absolutely. And just, Thomas and I did a talk before about, what you have an attachment style. We're talking about spectrum. You have attachment style as a child, and then you grow up and you have a certain attachment style as an adult. But there's a spectrum because you can get around certain people and you can leave your birth attachment and go into a different attachment.
Yes.
But your church has an attachment style as well. So if there is not attunement to you, if it's not about your needs, if you are not allowed to be who you are, if certain things aren't happening within your church, and that does go from the top down, then if you're in a more of an unresolved attachment church, and they are very much out there, or an avoidant attachment church, which means it's about you serving the church not serving you.
Correct.
Please, please, please think about that, pray about that, because that gets really unhealthy.
Yeah. And the marks, once again, as a reminder, the marks of secure attachment would be, exploration, risk-taking, an ability to co-regulate, some of the things we've talked about, right, with disagreeing without, someone losing their minds. Right. But I would say even the most important piece is, how do we repair? Can we have an argument and then there's some hurt feelings, but do we repair? Do we come back and do we say, hey, we probably still don't agree on that, but like, I love you.
Yeah.
You're my person.
Right.
You're my group of people, whatever
Right.
that language is.
Yeah.
And so how we repair, I think, is just as important, because I have a lot of people that when I talk about attachment with them, they interpret it as we shouldn't fight. We shouldn't have arguments. And that's not what secure attachment is. Secure attachment is how do we repair after?
That's right.
And more importantly, and even though I'm the therapist in the family, Sarah was onto this way before. She's like, we need to learn how to fight better because we suck at it. And she was right. We were really bad at it.
Right.
And I think in secure attachment, it's about how do we actually fight well too? How do we have arguments that are well?
Right.
Couples that don't fight weird me out. I'm like, y'all tell me you haven't had an argument like in 2 years. Like something's not right there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And part of that is therapist humor. Also part of that, it can actually be an indication that there's abuse and that there's fear of fighting. There's fear of having a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just know, like, so part of what he's talking about is the rupture and repair. The time between the rupture and the repair matters.
Yes.
So if there's a lot of time that happens in between that, then there's a lot of difficulty.
Yeah.
And that's, that's where behavior comes in. That's where resentment comes in. And that is where a lot of times that even if you wake up the next day and you keep going in the marriage or in with your boss, whatever it is, and there's no repair, there is still damage.
Yes.
Because without repair, there's a pattern.
Yes. Inner work, I think, is really important in this conversation, to be able to do inner work. And Suzanne says that the numbers that hate inner work more than any other number are 8s.
Shut up.
And
she did not say that about me.
yes, she did.
I'm going to talk to her. I'm calling her.
You should.
I wish she would talk to me. I love her.
And sometimes ones when they're unhealthy. And inner work, what is inner work? It can mean different things. But essentially it means we are looking at our... This is such four language. I'm sure like every other number is like, stop. But it's looking within your soul, inside, inwardly, and seeing what your motivations are all about. What's going on internally. Because oftentimes what happens, and this is, I'm relying on Pizza Zero here, we automatically do without attaining to our internal world.
That's right.
And then we overfunction. And when we overfunction, we just end up hurting everybody. We just hurt everybody.
Right.
And so inner work can involve like reflective journaling. It can involve, prayer, silent prayer. It can involve just having people,
there's so
having people in your life that can speak to you. It can involve just all kinds of different things. But it doesn't, I think the reason it's hard for 3, 7s, and 8s is because there's not... I won't tell them what you just did.
I just flipped them off.
Because it doesn't come with a result. If you attach a result to it, then you're probably not doing it right. And 3, 7s, and 8s love results.
Right.
They love results and they love action and they want it now and they want it here.
Yeah.
And so, but then again, I would actually say too that inner work that is with no solutions. I mean, 4s and 5s and 9s can be so reflective and so withdrawing and so inward that at some points someone needs to come behind them and say, so what do we do about this?
Right.
That's why for every number, growth looks so differently, because what growth looks like for you is probably to be more reflective about those things. What growth looks like to me as a doing repressed 4 is to say, what is the action that is attached to this?
Right.
So, yeah.
So y'all just know there's certain numbers, different levels of your intelligence center is repressed. So as an 8, I'm feeling repressed, and Thomas would be doing and repressed. So because of that, we're actually really good together, because you encouraged me to feel, and then I've helped you do a few things.
This is very true.
Yeah, and so it really does balance well, but that's part of the help that's there. And I wonder if for me, the inner work came easily in a sense is because I had 12 steps in front of me, and I knew when I got to the 12 steps, they told me something amazing was going to happen.
Yes.
And they didn't lie. Something amazing happened. And the therapy with it, like my pain level was so much that it was worth it to figure out why in the world I was so against myself.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I've heard people, I'm about to sneeze. Dang it.
Bless you.
I've heard people say that when great pain or when difficult situations occur, that will also catapult them into a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And that's me relying on Richard Rohr's work with Falling Upward, that transformation comes from one of two places. One is a place of great desire, and one is a place of great loss.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
So if suffering or something comes, or if addiction, like if you're at the end of your rope and like you are so desperate, you're going to be pretty desperate to try something else. Right. When your whole world gets taken away from you, that's going to catapult you into a new way of being.
Which is another reason why I speak openly about codependent narcissism, because you want the person in your life to stop catching them, because that's your drug. Because unless someone hits bottom, and there's also all avenues, we won't seek higher.
Yes.
All right. And so in AA, we say when the pain of the problem outweighs the pain of the solution, you will change. All right. And so it became that I did not want to sit in AA meetings. I had no desire to do that, but my pain was so great, I was willing to sit still, which is really difficult 25 years ago with me unmedicated to sit through a whole meeting.
Yes.
But I figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's that liminal space, right? That place where there's great desperation for change to actually happen. And that I want to clarify, that doesn't mean for people that are listening that are followers of Jesus and their faith and spirituality is important. I don't think that means we have to go looking for suffering. You guys want to hear the most for story ever? When Sarah and I were just married, I literally, I don't know how I didn't think I was a 4 for so long. I literally prayed for pain and suffering. I was like, my life is so boring, God. Like, bring something to me that like, and Sarah was like,
that's diagnosable.
Yeah. Sarah looks at me. She's like, do not pray for that.
Ever.
And, but the reason I'm telling that story is we don't have to go, we live in a broken world. We live in a world that is full of pain and suffering and brokenness. So it's not necessarily about looking for that stuff. It's about just acknowledging when it hits, and not ignoring it and not stuffing.
That's right.
And for 4s, not overdoing that. Not overdoing that pain and suffering too.
And going back to what you're saying about inner work, the more that I have cleared out the plank in my eyes and the trauma on my heart and the things that won't let me hear, the more I've done that, when someone else is suffering, I don't make their suffering about me. And so I can see it, I can pick up on it, and I can extend a hand, or I can stand beside them. And then, because no one gets through an addiction alone. No one gets out of a trauma response alone. No one gets out of domestic violence completely by themselves, right? We have to, as you said, we're wired for connection. We have to be there for each other. And so, but if I'm not well, I might not see that you're suffering. I might make your suffering about me to continue to avoid my suffering. All right. Or I might tell you deserve your suffering.
Yes.
None of that does not work out as Christ followers.
It does not. It does not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really, really good.
Yeah. So we got to do the work.
Yeah. We have to do the work. And I think even the word work it's important to define what that is. It doesn't mean we have to do work so that God sees us in a good light.
Yeah, thank you.
Because even when we're talking about attachment, it can be, we've talked about this. Yeah. It's confusing when we talked about earned secure attachment.
Yes.
Because
I don't like that word.
There's not earning involved.
Right.
There's not earning involved. What we're talking about doing the work is when we engage in work, we open our eyes to the reality of God's love within us and in us and through us. And we let go of the coping mechanisms and the personality structures and the unhealthy behavior that is leading us to have our blinders actually on, to not be able to see God present in every part of our lives. That's right. And so the work is not so that we get to this enlightenment moment where where me and God are finally good. What it means is that we get to engage in spiritual practices and exercise and whatever it is to actually be able to wake up to what's already in front of us that we haven't been able to see because of all the extra personality that we've been engaging with. Yeah,
that's so good. It's really, I want you to talk a little more about the personality, because part of why I tracked Thomas down, and just know if I find out about you and you say something
she
that
will
I
track
don't
you
know
down.
on my own after doing this for so long, I will find you. So, so Thomas made a comment on a different podcast about personality and about essence.
Yes.
And I understand that you were taught that, but your way of expressing it was really good. The way you said it really resonated with me.
Sure.
And so will you elaborate a little bit on that? Because that's a very different way of thinking.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we talk about the Enneagram or when we talk about anything having to do with personality, anything, we think that our personality is who we are. But the reality is that our personality is not who we are. It's the stuff that we have actually layered on or added on to take away from what our essence is. And our essence is what Thomas Merton would call our true self, right? So when we were born, we have this true self. But because of wounding, and so many people have problems with this language because they're like, I had a really good childhood. I wasn't wounded. Like, I'm good. Everything's fine. But all of us are wounded to a certain extent. Yes. And the reason all of us are wounded are not because all of our parents suck. The reason, because many of our parents are actually really, really good, and they were loving to their capacity. But what happens with wounding is there is no way that one person can meet all of our needs, right. Or there's no way that two parents can meet all of our needs.
That's right.
So we, as children, experience things in different ways that leads to hurt and pain. And so because of that, we then add personality to be able to deal with that wounding and that pain. So when I'm saying I'm a 4, in a way I am, in a way I'm not. I'm really not. My 4-ness is all the stuff that I've actually added onto my true self. Right. And so what happens in Enneagram work, or what happens in inner work, hopefully, is that we are actually like peeling back the layers of all my 4-ness so that I can actually get to my true self.
That's right.
Or for a 7, all my 7-ness. So in reality, I mean, it can be confusing for people that when they first learn about it, it's like, wait, what? What does that mean? Well, it just means that we have to be able to see our coping mechanisms, our personality. So we let that go.
Right.
To discover who we actually are. And this is why I think things like contemplative prayer or just reflectiveness, mindfulness, meditation, walking, whatever it is that you want to engage in, it helps you become aware of what you're adding on. So from a faith perspective, when I'm just sitting with Jesus, when I'm practicing contemplative prayer, one of the things I notice when I'm just silent before the Lord is all the conversations in my head that I'm having, all the future conversations, so that I don't look dumb, so that I am seen, because once again, we're in that heart triad, right? So that I am seen in a way that is not incompetent.
That's good.
And so we're not looking for a quote unquote encounter with Jesus, even though that might happen. What we're seeing is, this is the thing that's actually keeping me from deeper, closer intimacy with God.
Right.
It's worried about what that person's going to think. Or if I'm asked this question, like, what am I going to say in this scenario? All of this kind of stuff. And so for Sarah, when she engages in that kind of work, what happens with her is she thinks about all the things that could go wrong in any possible scenario. So for her, she needs to allow the Lord to actually remove the fear and the anxiety. But those are completely different things that happen in contemplative prayer or in just silence or just chilling out for 10 minutes without doing something. And so this is why I think the Enneagram is so important, because it teaches us the ways that we cope in unhealthy ways. And we can then allow the Holy Spirit to come within us and we can say, Father, take those things away. I want deeper intimacy. I want deeper closeness. But that's what I mean by personality. When I think about those scenarios, that's to deal with a wound. When Sarah deals with worst case scenarios, that's to deal with a wound. When 7s want to plan the next thing and want to have like high excitement and they want to plan and plan and plan, that's to deal with woundings. When 8s want to take charge and take over, that's to deal with wounding. It's not because that's who they are. It's actually, that's who they're not. When 9s want to just peacemake all the time, that's to deal with wounding. Anyways, I'll shut up.
Right. And just, I mean, that's so good, but like, just to think like 9s unhealthy, they're not peacemaking, they're appeasing. Right. And it's a sense of, as an 8, I have an ability to be a leader. If I start being bossy, then I'm in personality.
Correct.
Right? It's a characteristic versus thinking it's your character.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so another way of putting it is that when you're born, you're the unconditioned self. As you go through life, people put conditions on you.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
I hadn't heard that.
So part of being, once you become a conditioned self, and then you think that's who you are, only the enemy's happy with that. Like, God's called you. You will experience God's unconditional love the more you're in your unconditioned self.
Yes. Yes. That's really good.
Yeah. And so I think you said that so well about us figuring out who we are versus who someone said we are.
Yes.
Because we'll believe that. We won't believe who God says we are.
Mm-hmm. The hard part about inner work too is that no one is going to congratulate us for inner work, because all of us love when we love when 7s are the life of the party. These are characters. I understand not every 7's like this, but all of us love when no one knows what to do, and an 8 is like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And so for those of us that are on a journey, we have to really be mindful, reflect, and I would say congratulate and be aware that everyone is on a journey. Yeah. Everyone is on a journey. Yeah. And
So just to be able to do an inventory, do a daily inventory, right? So whether you do it in the morning or at night, and just to look over through your day and really think about, start with this question: was I able to receive today?
Yeah.
And if I'm not, what stops me? How did that condition come into my life that I'm not allowed to receive? I'm just to give.
Yes.
Right? Like, just to start looking at, why do I say the same thing every time I see Jay? Am I doing that because I don't know how to get closer to him? If I'm doing that because, like, just to really start.
It's because Jay's so awesome.
Is awesome. Jay's our producer, in case y'all don't know. So it's just all part of it. Like, really, if you slow down enough, and that's part about God being in his presence. Like, he's in the present. Absolutely. Right? And so that's where we experience him, and we can look and see through his lenses of what keeps us from experiencing that. Like, that's powerful.
It is very powerful. It's incredibly powerful. And I think, I'm just thinking about what you're saying. I don't know that I have anything to add to that, but
you are the expert here, not me, by the way.
I think it's incredibly important to recognize how, and I said this before, but a slow down spirituality is a good spirituality.
Oh, that's really good.
It's a slow down spirituality. If we don't have rhythms in our lives, we will overfunction, and we will hurt people, and we will find ourselves doing things that we probably shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
And so I value church structures, churches that want connection. And that want a slow down kind of spirituality. And a slow down spirituality doesn't mean that there's not action involved. But if you study the life of Jesus, what you see in the Gospels is that Jesus is engaging in a pattern of going and stopping, going and retreating.
Good. I like that.
And I'm sorry, but in the evangelical world, we don't love to stop that much. We just want to go. We've taken, the Great Commission, and we've made that the end all be all. And I'm all for the Great Commission. It's biblical. It's good. We need to go. We need to make disciples. But sometimes we're going without taking God with us.
Right.
Like, we're going and we're like, did we even pray about that? Right. Like, was God even in that?
Right. Yeah.
Or did we just see an opportunity and we just said, hey, let's go tackle this thing? And so I think when it comes to churches, we have to engage in discerning what is it like to go, and what is it like to actually, hey, maybe we need to take a couple days and actually just pray about this. Yeah. And I think 6s and 9s are great at this. They are great at being able to say, y'all crazy people, it seems like y'all are doing a lot. Even me as a 4, even though I'm doing repressed, because I have a 1-to-1 subtype, I externalize all that. And so, and I have a hint of ADHD, or a lot of ADHD, Kim would say.
A lot.
She can probably see it, like, I'm fidgeting, I'm looking at my stuff.
I'm slipping him some Ritalin. I'm telling him it's a Tic Tac.
And so, because of that, I think numbers like 6s and 9s, they're like, have you considered this? And all of us are like, have you considered what? Like, let's just go do this thing.
All right, let's go.
So I think 6s and 9s are great additions to church staffs to churches because they help us actually do things for the right reasons.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting. I was talking to my pastor last Sunday. We were talking to Naeem Fazal. We were talking to the worship leader, Lauren. She's amazing. She's a 6. And so he's a 3 and I'm an 8. And his point was when she texts him, if he doesn't text back, there's a panic and there's 25 more texts that come to him needing a response. And he said, Kim, when I text you, when you text me and I don't respond, nothing happens. Nothing. Because I don't care. Like I said what I needed to say. I trust that whenever I need to get the answer, I'm going to get the answer. If I needed to call him, if I said 911, he would respond. But it's just that anxiety, right? It's just so different.
Wow.
She needs to know
that's interesting.
That he got the text. I don't care.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It's just, again, and that's part of why I love the Enneagram and understanding people's attachment styles and understanding all that. Your expectations of people will match them instead of matching you.
Yes. Well, and isn't the whole point of this to love people better? Don't we want to love people well? And so if we can engage with and learn about tools that help us to love people better, there's nothing bad about that,
and narcissism won't let you love. So just be aware. And if you are stuck in like a preoccupied attachment and you're seeking the love of an avoidant, you're going to exhaust yourself, and the avoidant dismissive will not be tired. No. So I really want to start this podcast and be more intentional about psychology and interpersonal biology for people to really understand. If you are walking around the promised land and you keep passing the same cactus, I believe if you had some different information, if you had a different way of looking at it, if something internal could shift for you, then not only do you change, the other person that you've been chasing, now they have an opportunity to change. Yes. Doesn't mean they will, but at least now there's a window.
Yeah. Yeah. Narcissism also, I mean, we have to have boundaries with people that are on that spectrum or that have that personality disorder, but it's important to know and to remember that it's a wound. They're actually acting out of a place of wounding. So even though they're acting like absolute jerks, that comes out of a place of wound. There is something within them that is so fractured, that is so broken, that they live in this alternative reality where they cannot be wrong. They cannot see the other side. They cannot engage in self-reflection. It is all about them and grandiosity. And so it's important. I mean, we need to have boundaries. I'm not saying let them do what they want to do, but before we get all riled up and angry about it, which it's okay, anger is part of the human experience, it's important to know that that actually comes out of a place of wounding. They are so lost in their own pain that they live in an alternative reality that says, it's all about me.
Right. And if you are in a church or you're in relationship with a pastor, relationship with a husband, a wife, anybody, and you are detecting gaslighting in them and lack of empathy in them, and you are still pursuing them in the same way that enables their behavior, that's a really good time for you to focus on you. Yep. Even if it's 5 minutes a day. Because you're starving and you're thirsty and there's no connection for you. That's a really, really hard place to be. So even if it's 5 minutes a day, you actually check in with yourself and show some look for some self-connection. That can start going into a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's people to be with you on this journey. I mean, even if you suspect something, there's Kim's connected. She's got resources.
I've got resources, but also just listen, like it's for those of us in the gut triad, when you're dealing with a narcissist or a narcissistic system. Yes. If you're able to trust your gut, because I can tell you the narcissist will say exactly what you want to hear. They'll keep saying it to you, what you want to hear in those moments if they think there's going to be a chance of loss. Yeah. But if your body's responding to that, that's part of the interpersonal work is understanding how your body shows you physiologically what's actually going on. To really understand that, because narcissists will say whatever they got to say in the moment.
Yeah. It's self-serving.
It's self-serving.
It's self-serving.
It is self-serving.
Yeah. And for people in the gut triad too, this is where I'm not just saying this because Kim's here, but this is why for for eights that if they've done their work, they will call out that injustice because they've been able to see the harm that person can potentially do.
Yeah.
And so eights can add a lot to this conversation, in that when everyone else is nervous, I mean, they'll just call them out.
Yeah.
Right. They'll be like, no, you need to not do that. You don't get to do that.
Right.
You need to stop.
Right.
You're obnoxious. Go away. Right.
Right.
And so, yeah, for people in the gut triad, that's really, really important.
Yeah.
So
Thomas, I know that you've been in private practice for a while, but you're starting a new leg of it.
I
something
am.
that's very much yours. Can you tell our listeners, I'm sure they're enthralled with you and intrigued, and they want to touch the hem of
Please
your
edit
blue
that
jeans.
out. Please edit whatever
No,
she's
that's
saying
really
out.
good stuff.
Good God.
How would they, God is good. How would they follow you? How would they contact you? If somebody wanted to be your patient, how would they contact you now that you've left your current residence?
Yeah, I'm still I'll be starting my practice August 31st. So we're about a month away. So that's exciting. The name of my practice is called Inward Counseling. That's INWARD, Inward Counseling. And so I guess, can I give my number out here? I don't know.
Give your number out. Put it on the bathroom wall. Do what you got to do.
They can text or call 704-999-0044.
Excellent.
And I'm also on Instagram. I put out some psychoeducational material on there.
You
and
actually
I'm on
do
Facebook.
Great with that. That's
Thanks.
really good information
I appreciate
for
that.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, they can reach me that way.
So just so y'all know, he's been in private practice. He's in private practice right now, but it's for a facility that gets a percentage of what he makes.
Yeah.
And many people have said, you're too good to keep doing that. We want you to get 100%. Go do your
I would
thing.
like to say that they are great, fantastic human beings.
And they're a great practice.
Yeah, they are. They're really, really good.
Not all practices are created equal, and they're an outstanding practice. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah. They're the best practice I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just classy people.
Yeah, they are. But we've encouraged Thomas to go on his own with his force self, and so he has done that.
And I will be my model's going to be a little different. I'm not going to have an office place, but I'm going to be doing nature walks. I'm also going to be doing telehealth, so web-based therapy, and I've even been meeting some people different places around town. So
hey, Thomas, you're amazing.
Thanks. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Thanks.
So everybody, thank you so much. We hope that somewhere in this talk today that you were able to flip your lid and figure out what you need to see within, that you need to be able to reconnect to yourself and realize how amazing you are. So thanks for being part of what we're doing.
Thank you.